You know what hurts the most in trading? Not being wrong. Being right. Too early. That pain hits different. Because deep down, you saw it coming. You read the market right. You knew the move was coming, you just couldn't survive long enough to see it happen. I've felt that sting more times than I care to remember. You catch the top, the bottom, the turn. But before the market gets there, it shakes you out. Your stop hits. You step aside, and then it moves exactly how you said it would. You sit there watching the chart, heart heavy, jaw tight, and that voice in your head whispering, I was right, but it doesn't matter. Because in this game, being right doesn't pay. Timing does. Tell me honestly, have you ever called the move before it happened, only to watch it play out perfectly, without you in it? That's when you realize the market isn't cruel. It's just patient. And most of us aren't. See, I used to think success came from prediction, from spotting the turn before anyone else. But the market doesn't reward early. It rewards aligned. That's the hardest truth for a trader to swallow. The market can be right after you're gone, and still prove you were right all along. I used to take that personally, like the market had something against me. But over time, I learned it wasn't punishing me. It was training me. Because every early trade isn't a failure. It's a lesson in rhythm. And until you learn to move with the rhythm, you'll always arrive before the music starts. That's the quiet heartbreak of trading. You see the truth, but you don't yet know how to wait for it. Let me tell you, timing isn't about guessing the next candle. It's about listening to when the market is ready to move. And that skill, that patience, comes from pain. The pain of being right too early. Now here's the real question. Why do we always jump before the market's ready? Why can't we wait even when we know better? That's what I learned the hard way. And that's where this story really begins. You see, trading isn't really about price. It's about pressure. Not market pressure, mental pressure. That feeling when you see the setup. You've done your analysis. Everything lines up. But your hands still hesitate on the mouse. Why? Because you're fighting two voices. One says, this is the moment. The other whispers, wait, what if you're wrong again? And both sound convincing. That's the paradox every trader lives with. You need confidence to act, but patience to wait. You need courage to enter, but restraint to survive. Most of us lean too far one way. Some traders pull the trigger too soon. Others wait so long that the move is already gone. And both lose. Just in different ways. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You spot a perfect setup. You feel it's about to break. But you remember the last time you jumped early. You remember the loss. So, this time you wait, and the market moves without you. And now your brain starts screaming, see, you're always late. You should have taken it. So the next time, you enter early again, and it repeats. That's not a market problem. That's a control problem. You're not reacting to charts. You're reacting to memories. That's what the market really trades, not your money, but your emotions. I learned that the hard way. When I lost, it wasn't the loss that hurt me. It was what came after. The self-doubt. The need to prove I could still read the market. That hunger to get it back. That's how the market traps us, not with price, but with ego. We don't want to be wrong. We don't want to miss out. We want to be right and early. But the truth? You can't have both. Being early is the same as being wrong. And yet, try telling that to a trader after 3 missed moves in a row. He'll take the next one too soon just to feel alive again. That's what I mean by inner conflict. You're fighting the urge to act, the fear of missing out, and the memory of pain all at once. And the market? It doesn't care. It just sits there silent, patient, perfect, waiting for you to break first. The paradox is simple. The market rewards patience, but tempts impatience. It tests how long you can hold silence, and most traders fail the test, not because they lack skill, but because they can't wait for confirmation that feels boring. That's why most traders blow up accounts not from big mistakes, but from small, emotional ones repeated 100 times. The mind wants action. The market wants timing. And those two rarely meet at the same candle. So the question becomes, how do you quiet that voice inside? How do you stop trading your emotions instead of your plan? Because until you do, you'll always be right too early and wrong right on time. You know what ruins more traders than bad setups? Needing to be right. That one small urge it hides inside every decision. You might not say it out loud, but deep down, every time you hit that buy or sell button, you're whispering to yourself, please, let me be right this time. And that single whisper changes everything. It turns patience into pressure. It turns analysis into emotion. It turns a clean chart into a battlefield. See, when you need to be right, you stop reading the market. You start defending your opinion. You start looking for reasons to justify the trade you've already taken, not reasons to exit it. Tell me honestly, have you ever held a losing trade just because you didn't want to admit it was wrong? Watched the candles go against you, and instead of cutting it, you zoomed out, drew new lines, changed time frames, telling yourself, it's just a pullback? Yeah, that's the trap. You stop being a trader. You become a negotiator, bargaining with the market to make your ego feel safe. And the market never negotiates. It just teaches. This is why I say, most traders don't lose money. They leak it slowly, through small mistakes that feed their pride. Every early entry feels brave at first. It feels like you're ahead of the crowd. But the truth is, you're just impatient dressed as confident. That's the psychological trap. Impatience wears the mask of intuition. You tell yourself, I can feel it. The move is coming. And sometimes it does come, but not before shaking you out first. And every time that happens, your brain builds a new habit. To act faster next time, to beat the market. But you can't beat something that moves because of your kind of thinking. The crowd is you. And that's the hardest truth to swallow. The more you try to get ahead of the move, the more you become part of the noise that fuels it. When I realized that, it hit me hard, because I used to think my edge was seeing early. It wasn't. It was waiting correctly. But waiting doesn't feel exciting. It doesn't feed the ego. So we trade instead, just to feel in control. That's the cruel joke of trading. You trade to feel powerful, but every trade you take too early proves you were powerless over your own emotions. And until you face that, you'll keep entering early, keep getting shaken out, and keep calling it bad luck. It's not bad luck. It's bad timing born from the need to prove you're right. So the question becomes, if we know this trap so well, why do we keep falling for it? Why do we repeat it even after so much pain? That's what I'll tell you next. The moment I realized why I couldn't stop repeating the same mistake, even when I understood it completely. You know, after all those years, all those trades, all those sleepless nights, I finally understood something simple. The market doesn't care who's early. It doesn't even care who's right. It only cares who can wait. And that truth, it changes everything. When I was young, I wanted to outsmart everyone. I wanted to spot the turn before the turn. To be the one who bought the low, sold the high, and told the story afterward like a genius. But the market doesn't reward genius. It rewards discipline. Every time I thought I was early, because I was clever, the market reminded me, you're not early, you're just impatient. That's the difference between knowing and understanding. Every trader knows patience pays. Few actually understand how much waiting costs. Because waiting isn't easy. It's boring. It's uncomfortable. It makes you question yourself every hour. It feels like doing nothing. And traders hate doing nothing. But doing nothing at the right time is what separates the amateurs from the operators. You can study all the setups you want. You can draw perfect lines and calculate every ratio. But until you learn how to sit still when your brain is screaming for action, you're not really trading. You're gambling for comfort. That's what I realized. The market is not a place where you prove your intelligence. It's where you surrender your ego. Because the moment you need to be right, you've already lost. The market will make sure of it. The ones who last, they're not the fastest, not the smartest, not even the most confident. They're the ones who can watch a candle move and not react, who can see opportunity and still say, not yet. It sounds simple. It's not. That not yet is the hardest sentence in trading. because it means you've accepted that control is an illusion. And most traders can't accept that. They want control. They want certainty. They want to feel right. But here's the truth I learned. The market gives clarity only to those who stop demanding it. When you stop forcing trades, the best trades start revealing themselves. The longer you trade, the more you realize. Patience is not passive. It's the most active thing you'll ever do. So the real wisdom isn't buy low, sell high. It's wait until the market shows you it's ready. And when that happens, you don't need to predict anymore. You just need to act once, with full conviction. That's trading. Not guessing, not chasing, aligning. But it took me years of being early, years of being wrong at the right time, to understand that alignment isn't about timing. It's about temperament. Now the question is, how does a trader reach that point? How do you stop chasing and start listening? Let me tell you a story. A real one. The trade that taught me what waiting actually means. I remember one trade like it was yesterday. The tape was moving fast, too fast. The whole street was whispering the same name, Union Pacific. Every trader in the pit wanted a piece of it. And me? I wanted to prove I could catch the move before anyone else even smelled it. I had studied the chart for weeks. I saw the tightening range, the quiet accumulation, the subtle volume shifts. Everything was pointing to a breakout. But the breakout hadn't come yet. And that's the moment that tests a trader, when everything almost lines up, but not quite. I still remember sitting there, tapping my pencil, telling myself, if I don't act now, I'll miss it. You know that voice? The one that sounds logical, but is really just fear of waiting. So I acted. I went in heavy. Too heavy. The next morning, the stock ticked up, just enough to make me feel like a genius. Then it paused. Then it slipped. Then it cracked. I didn't even notice how quickly confidence turned to confusion. Within an hour, my perfect setup had turned into a slow bleed. And my emotions, they went from calm to panic without a sound. I kept telling myself, it'll bounce. It didn't. By the time I admitted the truth, I was down more than I should have ever risked. And the worst part? A week later, the real breakout came. Exactly where I'd predicted it. But by then, I had no capital left, and no courage left either. That was the day I learned something I never forgot. Being right too early feels exactly the same as being wrong. It hurts the same, costs the same, breaks your spirit the same. Most traders don't realize that. They think being early is some kind of smart mistake. It's not. It's still a mistake, because timing isn't about guessing the future. It's about waiting for confirmation. And confirmation always feels late to the impatient. That trade humbled me. It burned the lesson deep. You can't buy conviction before the market gives it. You can't force the market to move because you're ready. It moves when it's ready. After that day, I stopped trying to be first. I started trying to be aligned. There's a big difference between chasing the move and joining it. And that difference, that invisible moment of waiting, is where all the money hides. Tell me honestly, have you ever done that? Jumped in a little too soon, just because it looked ready, only to watch the market do exactly what you thought, after it kicked you out? Be honest. I know that pain. And that pain, it's the tuition every trader pays before they learn patience. But there's more to it, because that one trade didn't just cost me money. It changed how I traded forever. The next time I saw a setup forming, I didn't rush in. I waited. And that waiting, it felt like redemption. Now, let's go deeper, because that moment, that breaking point, wasn't just about losing a trade. It was about losing control of myself. And that's where every trader either breaks or transforms. You know, there's a kind of silence in trading that only happens when you're losing. Not the kind of losing that hurts your account. The kind that hurts your belief in yourself. After that Union Pacific trade, I sat there for hours. No charts, no talking, no thinking. Just the sound of the ticker. And that slow, sick feeling in my stomach. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad. I was just empty. Because deep down, I knew the truth. The market didn't beat me. I beat myself. It wasn't the setup that failed. It was my need to feel right, my need to prove something. That's the worst addiction in this game, not money, not risk, but the craving to be right, to catch the move early, to be the guy who knew before everyone else. I had told myself I was trading my system, but really, I was trading my ego, and ego doesn't have a stop loss. You know what's funny? When you're losing, the market goes quiet, but your mind starts screaming, maybe it'll bounce. Just hold a bit longer. Add one more lot average down. It's not logic. It's survival. I watched my positions sink, tick by tick, each one taking a little piece of me. And then, when I finally hit that moment, that deep exhaustion where you stop caring, that's when I closed the trade. Not because I had a plan, but because I had nothing left to give. And the pain, it wasn't the loss. It was realizing how far I'd drifted from discipline, how quiet the warning signs were, and how loudly I ignored them. You know what traders never talk about? It's not the loss that kills you. It's the shame that follows it. You start questioning everything. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I've lost my edge. But here's the truth. The market breaks everyone once in a while. That's how it finds out who can rebuild. That moment, sitting in that silence, was my breaking point. But it was also the start of something new. Because when you've lost enough, you stop trying to win every battle. You start trying to understand the war. That's when I realized, you don't survive this game by avoiding pain. You survive by learning which pain is worth enduring. Tell me honestly, have you ever hit that wall? The one where you don't even want to look at your screen? Where the chart doesn't hurt but your own reflection does? That's where growth hides. Right there in the silence, after the mistake. And that silence taught me more than any prophet ever did. You know, it took me years to understand this. The market never punished me for being wrong. It punished me for staying wrong. That realization didn't come from a book or a mentor. It came from the pain I earned, trade by trade. See, every trader learns how to enter, but very few learn how to exit. Because exiting means admitting something most of us can't say out loud. I was wrong. And that's the hardest sentence in trading. Not because of money, but because it bruises your pride. When I finally saw that, everything changed. I stopped trying to predict and started trying to protect. Not my ego, my capital. I made one rule that saved my career. I'd rather lose small being wrong than lose everything trying to prove I'm right. Sounds simple, doesn't it? But it isn't. Because the hardest trades are the ones that touch your emotions. The ones where you've convinced yourself, this has to work. That's where the market tests you. Not on charts, on character. There's a moment, right before a big loss, when your gut whispers, get out. But your hope says, wait. And every time I listened to hope, I paid for it. Every time I listened to the quiet voice of reason, I survived. That's the lesson the market teaches in whispers. It doesn't shout, it doesn't warn, it just gives you choices. And if you keep choosing pride, it will take everything until you finally learn humility. Once I made that shift, I started seeing losses differently. They weren't failures anymore. They were fees for staying in the game. I stopped chasing perfection. I started chasing survival. Because when you survive long enough, profits come as a byproduct. You know what's strange? When you truly accept that being wrong is part of the game, you start feeling free. No pressure, no fear, just execution. I remember writing in my notebook that night, from now on, I trade to protect my future, not to prove my past. That line stayed with me, because it was no longer about winning big. It was about lasting. Tell me honestly, have you ever held a trade just because you didn't want to admit you were wrong? How many times did that small denial turn into a disaster? Be honest, because that's the wall most traders never climb. The market doesn't care about your ego. It only respects discipline. And once you understand that, the game becomes quiet, calm, almost peaceful. You know, people think the market today is different. Faster, smarter. Algorithms, AI, social media. Everything moves in seconds. But here's the truth. The tools changed, not the trader. Greed still looks the same. Fear still sounds the same, and mistakes, they still cost the same. You open your phone now, and the market follows you everywhere. You're checking your charts in bed, scrolling Twitter for confirmation, watching someone else's P&L like it's a scoreboard, and in that noise, you stop hearing yourself. That's how today's market traps you. Not with bad signals, but with constant distraction. You can't hear your plan when 10 people are shouting buy. You can't hold your trade when the screen flashes red every second. Back in my time, the ticker tape moved slow. It forced patience. You had to think. Now everything moves too fast for thought, and too slow for emotion. Traders today don't lose because of lack of information. They lose because they can't stop reacting. You can't win if you're reacting. You can only win when you're observing. And that's where my rule still works even more now than ever. I'd rather be wrong early than dead late. That's not just about stops. It's about detachment. About knowing when a trade doesn't deserve another second of your peace. Because in this new world, the most valuable thing isn't data, it's clarity. The market is faster now, but the trap is still the same. You think you're controlling the screen, but the screen is controlling you. Every trader says they have discipline until they see a breakout post on Instagram. Every trader says they trust their plan until a YouTuber screams, "Massive move incoming." You see? The market hasn't evolved, our distractions have. And the trader who wins today isn't the one with the best indicators. It's the one who can stay calm in a storm of noise. Trading used to test patience. Now it tests silence. Tell me, have you ever switched your plan mid-trade just because someone else seemed smarter online? Have you ever closed a good position just because you couldn't sit still anymore? Be honest. Because that's how most traders lose, not from bad analysis, but from emotional interference. You don't need to outsmart the market anymore. You just need to outweight your impulses. That's how my old lesson, protect, not prove, still fits today's world perfectly. The screens may glow brighter now, but the truth remains dimly the same. The market pays those who stay quiet. You know, I've met hundreds of traders in my life. Rich, broke, hopeful, hopeless. And they all ask the same question. How do I fix this? The answer is never exciting, but it works. Because trading isn't about excitement, it's about clarity. So if I had to give you steps, real ones, not motivational lines, not theory, just the kind that keep you alive in this game, I'd say this. Step 1, start with silence. Before you take a trade, sit for 2 minutes. No chart, no phone, just silence. Ask yourself, do I feel calm enough to trade? If the answer is no, don't touch that keyboard. Because trading from emotion is like driving drunk. You might reach home, but not safely. Step 2, write your reason. Every trade must have a reason you can explain in one line. Not 10, not 21. If it takes longer to explain, it means you're guessing. And the market doesn't pay guessers. Step 3, plan the loss before the entry. I never think of how much I could make. I think of how much I'm willing to lose. If that number doesn't sit well with me, I don't enter. Because comfort with loss is clarity of mind. Step 4, stop watching every tick. The best trades don't need babysitting. If your position makes you anxious every second, you're either over-leveraged or under-prepared. Let the market breathe. Let yourself breathe. Step 5, schedule your exits like a surgeon, not a gambler. Don't wait for emotion to decide. Plan your stop, your partial, your target. Then walk away. Because good trades work even when you're not watching them. Step 6, review without regret. At the end of the week, open your journal. Not to beat yourself up, but to understand your behavior. You'll see patterns not on charts, but in your choices. And that's where improvement hides, not in new indicators, but in old habits you refuse to face. You see, every successful trader I've met wasn't the smartest guy in the room. He was just the calmest, because calm traders last. And lasting is the only real edge. The market doesn't reward intelligence. It rewards endurance. So, next time you sit down to trade, don't ask, will this setup work? Ask, will I work the setup without breaking my own rules? That's the only question that matters. Be honest, how many times have you lost not because of your strategy, but because of your own impatience? Because of fear? Because of the need to make back what you lost yesterday? That's the real war. And discipline is your only weapon. So, take these steps, practice them not for a week, but for a lifetime. Because the market never gets easier. You just get quieter. You know, I've seen traders come and go. Bright minds, sharp skills, hungry hearts. But the market doesn't care about any of that. It only cares about who can stay calm when it hurts the most. Because this game, it's not about entries, exits, or setups. It's about you. The person behind the screen. The voice in your head when things go wrong. Most traders don't lose to the market. They lose to their reflection. They can't forgive themselves. They can't wait. They can't sit still when the chart moves the other way. I've been there, and I still go there sometimes. No matter how much you learn, the market always finds new ways to test what you've healed. That's the part they don't tell you, that even after years, the fear, the greed, the impatience, they never disappear completely. You just learn how to live above them. That's trading. It's not victory. It's survival with wisdom. And if you're still here, still watching charts, still studying, still fighting the urge to quit, then you already have what most never build: endurance. Because the truth is, the market doesn't destroy you. It just reveals you. If you're honest, disciplined, patient, it rewards you slowly. If you're reckless, emotional, impulsive, it exposes you quickly. That's the balance every trader faces every single day. So, when you sit down tomorrow, don't chase. Don't predict. Just listen. The market breathes. It whispers. It tells you everything if you're quiet enough to hear it. And when you finally start hearing that rhythm, you'll notice something strange. The noise disappears. The fear fades. And trading becomes peaceful. Not easy. Not perfect. But peaceful. That's the point where you stop trading for money and start trading for mastery. Tell me honestly, have you felt that silence yet? That calm moment when everything slows down, and for once, you and the market move together? If you have, you're closer than you think. If you haven't, stay patient, because that silence comes only to those who've earned it. The market has no heart, no mercy, but it has rhythm. And once you learn to move with it, you'll never need to fight it again. So take a breath, forgive your last mistake, and remember, you don't need to win every trade. You just need to survive long enough to see your truth unfold. I'll leave you with this. The market doesn't build traders. It builds humans who can handle truth. Now tell me in the comments, what lesson broke you but also made you? Because somewhere in that pain lies the reason you're still here.